Hi, class. Chapter 20, Eating in Silence. We all attended regular Mass, and then Father Samuel held an additional special service just for Abuela at the end. As people filed out after normal Mass, Father Samuel asked us to move up to the first few rows of benches. She was a beacon in this community and this parish, Father Samuel said. It is a privilege to honor her today. That's the kind of impact Abuela had. A priest would make an exception for her. I looked around at the family, Carmen and her dad, and Mop's parents. We didn't invite more people to stay because Mom wanted to keep it small and intimate. She placed a bouquet of flowers on the altar along with a framed picture of Abuela, smiling. Uncle Carlos rubbed his forehead and pushed the quadruple stroller quietly in the aisle. The two sets of twins had fallen asleep peacefully. Brian wore his sunglasses inside the church, and Martin just kept his head down. Aunt Tootie was real quiet, but would let out occasional shrieks and wails so loud the next church 3 miles away could have heard her. My dad held my mom's hand and never took his eyes off Abuela's picture. My mom's lips were so tightly pressed together they could have easily been one lip. I didn't think she even blinked. I stared at Abuela's photo. It felt weird seeing her picture there. She was going to be cremated in 2 days as soon as all the paperwork was complete. A body of ashes trapped in a vase forever. I hated the thought of Abuela trapped anywhere. There was a single white rose in the middle of all the other colorful flowers. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but I saw it. White roses were Abuela's favorite. I imagined for a second that rose was for me, that it was for my eyes only. Cultiva una rosa blanca. That was what the poem said. The translation was, I cultivate a white rose. All I could think about was how Abuela had gardened, and how she had cooked, and how, before she'd gotten sick, she'd read stories to me, and how those stories had been shared with Abuela, her lifelong love. They were stories of heroes and poets and love and sacrifice, of leaving your country for another, of learning that family is the only home worth claiming. Their stories always had love in them. Abuela's letters showed me that. The white rose on her coffin reminded me of everything I had and everything I had lost. My whole world felt like it was slipping away. Aunt Tootie spoke first, and then I was supposed to say a few words on behalf of the grandkids. But when I thought of the urn filled with Abuela's ashes, and Aunt Tootie crying, and my mom's stone face, and everyone else sniffling and rubbing their eyes, I decided not to. I just couldn't do it. And I guess that wasn't good, because I missed my chance to tell everyone what Abuela meant to me. Then it was my mom's turn to speak. In light of Abuela's passing, she began, we are going to have a memorial dinner at the restaurant next Sunday. If you can, please let our customers know that next Sunday's family dinner will be open to everyone. My mom talked about Abuela's commitment to the neighborhood and to the families who lived here. It's what she would have wanted, my mom concluded. When our special Mass was over, I saw Mop's mom and dad. They saw me too and came over. I know Mop wishes he were here, Arturo. Yeah, I wish you were here too, I said. Hey, you let us know if you need anything, Mop's dad said. Thanks. I appreciated that Mop's parents hadn't gone to Wilfredo Pipo's dumb festival. And we'll be at the restaurant next week, Mop's mom said. We're going to bring a few other friends who knew Abuela. We'll try to get Mop down here as well. Cool, I said. My family walked together through the streets back to the apartment complex. But slowly we split up. Yolanda and Mary left to post information about Abuela's memorial dinner near the restaurant. Brian called people on the phone and my dad sent emails. It was obvious that we weren't having Sunday family dinner tonight. I tried to think of another time when dinner was canceled, but I couldn't come up with anything. I walked alone until my mom caught up to me. Arturo, she asked, I'd like for you to cook Abuela's memorial dinner with me next week. My mom stared at me with her intense brown eyes. She wasn't playing. She really wanted me to cook with her. What about Martin? I asked, thinking that was a way better idea. I'd like to have some time alone with you, she said, walking ahead. We'll go to the restaurant tomorrow and think of the menu to prepare for Abuela's dinner. I thought we were going to chill and honor Abuela this week. This is how you and I will honor her, by cooking together. She disappeared into our apartment. My mom wanted me to cook with her? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Carmen coming up to me, and I panicked. We hadn't really spoken since my total epic fail at the protest. How are you feeling, Arturo? Well, we just got out of Abuela's funeral mass, so not great. I knew it sounded mean as the words were coming out, but I couldn't stop them. Yeah, of course, that was a stupid question. Almost as stupid as when one of my dad's friends asked if I missed my mom 2 days after her funeral. I suddenly remembered that Carmen had lost her mother not too long ago. That was the whole reason she was here for the summer. I felt like a complete jerk. Hey, I'm sorry for snapping. I didn't get much sleep last night, I said and yawned really loudly. I left out the part about writing. Sorry, guys. Don't worry about it. I understand, she said while looking at her shoes like they were the most fascinating things in the world. By the way, have you seen my book of poetry, she asked. I've been looking for it everywhere, and I could really use some versos sencillos right now. Huh? Oh, no, I said because I had forgotten to give it back to her and didn't want her to think I'd had it all this time without telling her. Maybe you left it somewhere. But if you really want to read it, Abuela has an old edition. We can go check if you want. Okay, she said, smiling as she followed me to Abuela's apartment. We walked in and the AC was still on. The coolness gave me goosebumps, but I didn't mind. Abuela's copy of the Martí book was still on the coffee table. Here it is, I said, handing it to her. That's awesome, she said. Look how old the book is. Keep it, I said. Did I really mean that? I decided I did. I can't keep this, she said. No way. She would have wanted you to have it. Carmen opened the book to the first few pages and started reading silently. She shook her head. I won't keep it, she said. It's too special. Well, at least borrow it. Carmen paced around the room reading while I dug through a bunch of Abuela's old photographs. I thought people at the memorial might want to see some. There was one with Abuela and Abuelo on the beach. Uncle Carlos was in Abuela's arms, and my mom held on to Abuelo's hand while Aunt Tootie showed off her missing 2 front teeth with a smile. Some pictures were slightly torn around the edges, and others were taken at a time when cars looked like round, colorful toasters. Abuela stood in front of a car like that, wearing white pants and a flowing jacket. Her hair was really short and curly, and even though the picture was black and white, you could see her bright eyes glowing. Carmen kept reading as I flipped through the pictures. Neither of us said a word. Occasionally, Carmen made a comment about how it seemed like Jose Martí could be read in any time period. His poetry is political, but full of love and hope, she said, and I nodded, but really I had no idea what she was talking about. Hey, check this out, I said. Who does this look like? Carmen put down Abuela's book of poems and stared at the black and white photo. It looks just like Jose Martí, she said. It can't be, I said. Martí died like more than 100 years ago. Well, yes, but the building La Cocina is in is really old, Carmen said. He could have stopped there to give a speech or something. Hang on, I said, checking my phone for reference. I typed the address of La Cocina and added historical to the search. Nothing came up. I typed Jose Martí and La Cocina de la Isla, but still nothing came up. Then I typed Merritt family and Jose Martí, since the Merritt's ancestors practically founded this town, and a few hits popped up about the late 1800s. The Merritt family is one of the oldest families in the neighborhood, I told Carmen, and look, some of the original Merritts might have had a connection to Martí. So how does that help us? Carmen asked, getting closer. Abuela used to work for the descendants of the Merritts. It's possible there is a link somehow. Maybe that's why she has this photo, she said, jumping up. And if the building La Cocina is located in is actually historical, it can't be torn down. Carmen jumped up and down excitedly. How can we find out for sure? We left Abuela's apartment, taking the old photo of Cuba's most famous hero with us. When we got to the courtyard, we ran into my mom, who sat waiting on a bench. What's up? She asked. Mom, we found something. If this is about Wilfredo, I don't want to hear it. It's not. It's about the... Arturo, my mom shot both of us a look. I don't want to hear it right now, okay? Carmen placed her hand on my shoulder. and that rumbling, stiff throat, nervous like a fish being reeled in feeling came back. I shrugged it off. Carmen didn't like me like that. My mom got up and made her way back up to the apartment. She took slow steps up the stairs, and I could tell she was tired. I decided to leave her alone. Uncle Frank saw us through his window and came out to give me a hug. You really have grown, Arturo. Uncle Frank was super tall. I may have grown, but I felt like a little kid in his arms. Mi amor, can you help me with the website? I forgot what I needed to do to post something with photographs. And a little girl from Andalusia sent a comment. Can you respond to her? Carmen and Uncle Frank had been working on a blog for kids who had lost parents to sickness. It was mostly in Spanish, and the site had nice pictures on it. The front page had a picture of Carmen's mom, with a caption about her story. Carmen had put in a comment section for people to send questions or share their stories. Okay, Papa, she said. See you later, Arturo. I nodded as she walked with Uncle Frank back to her apartment. She stopped, told her dad something, and ran back to me. Hey, she said with a sad kind of smile. Her shiny braces made little red and blue sparkles on her teeth. It gets better, you know. Losing someone? I watched as the words slowly came out of her mouth. Something about Carmen's smile made me, I don't know, less mad at things. There's a little picture to kind of maybe change the scene, I'm not sure. My parents were on the sofa when I got home, sitting in the silence. I think I startled them because my mom flinched a little when she lifted her head off my dad's shoulder. Her eyes were puffy and she kept blowing her nose. She tried to smile at me, but she didn't say anything. My dad smiled and winked. He had a way of lightening even the saddest moments. He caressed my mom's head as she lowered it back onto his shoulder. My mom had just returned to Miami after working for a few years in fancy New York City restaurants when she'd met my dad. He was in town from Los Angeles where he acted in commercials. He stopped at Lola's Cafe on the far side of Main Street for a coffee one day. That was where, from what my dad tells me, things didn't start out that great. I spent the entire morning apologizing to your mother for having spilled coffee all over her white chef coat. She finally agreed to let me buy her another one, and the rest is history. That's how he remembers it, my mom would always say. It was more like he followed me all the way to La Cocina, begging me to accept a new coffee. Which she did. Every time my parents told this story, they each had their version of it, of how it went down. And it often prompted playful bickering. It was the way they expressed their love. Abuelo and Abuela expressed theirs differently. I guess the common thread that both my abuelo and my dad kind of failed epically the first time they'd met, Abuela and my mom. I went up to my room and checked to see if Bren was online, and I hoped Mop would be able to come to the memorial dinner next Sunday. When I didn't hear from Bren, I checked the family group chat. There weren't any conversations. It was the first time that had ever happened. Someone always sent at least a funny picture or a viral video. It felt weird not to talk to my family on a Sunday. I looked at the photograph of Marty again and put it away. Now wasn't the time to be an activist or a poet or any of those things. I took out Abuelo's box and looked at the remaining blank pages. They reminded me of silence. Silence was another way to remember. Chapter 21 is called Memory Games.